Good morning. I'm Ann Schindler, and this is First Coast Connect. Today, 'tis the season to curl up with a good book. Emphasis on good. To help us select that choice read are four experts in the field this morning. Later in the program, we'll discuss the child literacy goals behind a new StoryWalk segment of the city's Emerald Trail. But first, time is short, and nobody has time to spare on a less than stellar book, which is why a good recommendation carries as much or more weight than a review. To discuss it, we're joined by four trusted voices in the literary world. Rhona Brinlee, owner of the BookMark in Neptune Beach. Good morning, Rhona.
Good morning. Great to be here.
Angie Nixon, state representative and owner of Cafe Resistance Bookstore on Sutel Drive. Hey, Angie.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Erika Alfieri, metadata and cataloging librarian with the Jacksonville Public Library. Good morning, Erika.
Hey, good morning.
And Tricia Booker joins us on the line. She is a UNF journalism instructor and author of The Place of Peace and Crickets. Good morning. I want to start with you, Angie, just your take. I mean, what makes for a good book?
What makes for a good book for me? I like things that educate me as well as captivate me and captivate the reader and just leaves me wanting to learn more about it. And then sometimes just a form of escapism. I'm really into Black futurism right now, Afrofuturism, because, this world right now is going a little nuts. And so it's a great way to escape.
Yeah. And both you and Rhona own bookstores. So you're in the business of making recommendations a lot. How do you assess somebody's need when it comes to a book? How do you help them meet it?
Sometimes it's just they're feeling overwhelmed. And so we ask them, just like I stated earlier, do they want to escape? Do they want to learn some historical things? And then that's the way we make our recommendations from there.
And for people who aren't familiar with your bookstore, I mean, it is a specialty bookstore in the sense that it
Yes.
focuses on Black literature and the story of Black America.
Right. The story of not only oppression, but like the story of resistance. And oftentimes folks are taught that Black history starts at slavery, and that's not just the case, really. Our people, well, some of us, right, we come from an amazing people, right? We weren't just born on the water. We had our own native tongue. We had our own religions. And so we have that type of information in the bookstore so people can learn about it.
Yeah. And Rhona, your bookstore, I mean, certainly specializes in great books. It is not it's not as specific as the
Right.
purpose of Cafe Resistance. How do you assess a reader's need when they come into the bookstore, and what kind of questions do you ask to help them find the right book?
Well, so that's what we do all day. When you say what is a great book, it's different for everybody. So the idea that there's one book that everybody's going to like. So our goal is to match the perfect book with that reader. So we start with, what do you like to read? And sometimes they say, I don't know, I don't read. I'm just trying to get started. Well, what movies do you watch? Things like that, to give some idea of what they're interested in. So for gift giving, that becomes really important to sort of, well, like, what does your mother like? Or, you don't want to sell somebody something that's going to get them upset or has something in it that reflects on their life that they don't want to revisit. So that's what we do all day. That's the fun part, is matching the reader and the book.
Absent that perfect match, do you have just like your top book this year that you think everybody could or should read?
No, I don't think there is that book, actually. I think that that's what's fun about it. And that's what's fun about an independent bookstore, is that you get to make those matches. You don't have to depend on the national trend of what's the hot book, what's number one on the New York Times. It doesn't really matter. We report to the New York Times. It's always fun to see that we don't match their list. We have our own. We like to think we influence the reading habits of the nation, of course, but, we have our own list, and people have their own books to read. And so it'd be silly to think that there's one book that everybody should read, that one book.
Yeah. Erika, you work at the library. I mean, how do you match the tastes of people who looking for something to read with the mission of the library overall?
Ooh, so a lot of times when people come in, they're either trying to look for a book for a reluctant reader, like a child, and sorry, dads, but a dad who isn't that into books. I really like to go with nonfiction for those readers, which might be kind of a curveball, but a lot of times, like Rona was saying, if you can find out what someone's interested in, there's a book for that. So if you want to learn to hike or how to build a bicycle or go bird watching, we've got books for all those things.
I want to start with sort of a couple of themes that I noticed on the book lists that you all sent me of things that you're reading. And we should say both of our bookstore owners brought a pile of books that are stacked behind them on our shelf. So there's a
Sorry.
lot of books to consider today. But one thing that I thought was really interesting, and Trish, I'll get you in just a second, but I want to go back to Rhona for a second. This retelling of Bel Canto, which is one of the Ann Patchett, one of her early books, a classic, an extraordinary book.
Right.
She actually reissued it with an annotated, an annotated version of
Right.
it, critiquing her own writing.
It's a large format book, so it looks like a coffee table kind of a gift book, and it is annotated. And the funny part, it starts with the introduction and the dedication. And she said when she first wrote it, she dedicated to some guy who was just her boyfriend, and that was the gutsiest thing to do. But now they're married, so it's okay. She rededicated it to him, so it worked out okay.
She didn't take that out. That's
She didn't
a
take
good
that
sign.
out. No, that's a good sign. No, but she goes through and she makes comments on like, what was I thinking here? I shouldn't have put this in here. And it's all in her handwriting. And so if you were a fan of that book, as I was, it was an amazing book that, just spoke to the times too. You can see what she was thinking when she wrote it. And when she went back to it, what she was thinking, whether it still made sense or she would have done it differently now. And the fact that it's in her handwriting makes it fun. We all annotate books that we want to keep and go back to our notes. And sometimes they're kind of funny to look at after all those years.
And Tricia, I want to ask you about this. I don't know that this is a book that you've read. I know you've read Bel Canto, but as an author, I mean, she has described the experience of going back and reading something that's already been published as sort of excruciating, and that this was an exercise she really had to kind of push herself into. I saw in one interview she said she had used the word flutter like 8 times in the book, and she just found it intolerable that she hadn't.
Is put out there her kind of her regrets about the way she wrote the first book, which of course was brilliant. But the idea that she is able to go back and say, yeah, this was really good. This is maybe how I would do it now as a more mature writer. I just think it's amazing. It's such a gift to readers, but also to other writers.
One of the books that was on your list, Tricia, it was on a lot of top 10 lists this year. It was also on Rhona's recommendation list, is James, which is a retelling of the Huck Finn story. And so it's another kind of look back at an existing story and then taking another bite at it. But it really has been appreciated as a true creation and classic of literature on its own.
It is so good. One of the things that I love about many of the books that were big sellers this year is that they can teach people about current events, but also about history in a way that is interesting and that they might not otherwise learn. I mean, as a journalist, at a time when journalism is really taking a back seat for many people, they're not reading as much of the news, that they can read good literature, great literature that teaches them something about history and about things that are going on in the world is amazing. And in James, the people of color have 2 different kind of personalities that they put forth. They have the people that they are and the ways that they interact with each other. But then they have a completely different front and that they put on for their masters, for the owners and for the people that they are beholden to. And it's just a fascinating way to look at slavery and to just kind of rehumanize the times of slavery.
Yeah.
It's brilliant.
Another book that was on your list, which it wasn't actually a 2024 book, but you noted, Tricia, that it came out really late in the year, so of 2023, is Demon Copperfield, which is, or Demon Copperhead. I'm sorry, which is kind of, in a way, a retelling of David Copperfield. What was it about that book that so appealed to you?
Well, she told the whole story. It's a long book. Barbara Kingsolver wrote the book in the voice of the main character, and he's a kid, and so it reflects the way he speaks and the way he thinks is very childlike throughout. And the story is about the opioid crisis. I mean, you get invested in the story because you kind of fall in love with this character who is just put through the ringer as a child and as a young adult. But he also becomes an addict, and you begin to see the fractures, the societal fractures in the way we handle addiction. I think that book it broke a lot of hearts, but it certainly, again, it taught a lot of people about the drug crisis in a way that perhaps news stories don't necessarily do.
Angie, I want to talk to you about some local authors because your picks this year were kind of heavy on local authors. Start us with a couple names that we know really well, Nat Glover and
Yes.
Rodney Hurst.
Yeah, so Sheriff Glover, actually came striving for justice. He came and he did a book signing and also just talked about the book and just his experience and his life. And so I wanted to really showcase local authors and local heroes because what's interesting is oftentimes you don't know the history. What I have witnessed is folks here in Jacksonville don't even know the breadth of history and the the greatness that comes out of Jacksonville. And so I just wanted to create a space where folks can learn that, right? And so we have Sheriff Glover's book, Striving for Justice. We also have a ton of Rodney Hurst's books, one of which is Black and Brilliant. And I really started my bookstore not just because books were being banned and challenged, but because oftentimes our children or the Black community don't realize that we are amazing, and that we come from great things. And so Black and Brilliant is an excellent book, particularly for Generation Z and the younger millennials and Generation Alpha. It teaches about the civil rights movement and how young leaders were the ones that sparked that movement. And so that's amazing. And then also I want to give a shout out to Mr. Warren King, who wrote My Journey from Dozier School. He is someone who frequents the bookstore. He loves our smoothies, but he wrote a book. He actually was released from prison a few years ago, but he wrote a book about his life in the Dozier School for Boys, where he was beaten and abused. And there, actually, Senator Davis helped lead legislation that is going to allow those individuals to get some monetary money because of, being abused. And so
And
I
that
just
story was
want people
fictionalized by Colson Whitehead in
Yes,
the Nickel
yes,
Boys, which I
yes.
think is a new movie
Mhm.
even.
Yes.
But so this is his
This
story.
is his story. And I invite everyone to come out and listen, like pick it up and also talk to him because he's there almost every day.
If you're just joining us, we are talking with four very literate folks in town here about their best year of recommendations, what you can get, what you could pick up for the holidays. And if you'd like to join our conversation, you're welcome to give us a call at 904-549-2937. You can also email First Coast Connect at WJCT.org or reach out on social media. We've got a call from Roselle in Avondale. Good morning, Roselle. Go ahead.
Hi, ladies. I worked for Rhona years ago, and I've been spending a lot of time in Angie's bookstore and Cafe Resistance. One of the things that I'm really excited about Angie's store is that she doesn't mention it much, but she does after-school tutoring, and the kids are coming for music lessons, and it's become, she's always having events, free events, often free food, which is kind of, I don't know how she pulls that out of her hat. And she has speakers. I heard a speaker recently who was very involved in the civil rights movement in the 60s. And it was fascinating to hear this gentleman speak. He's a college professor, and I forgot his name, Angie, but the best thing about the bookstore is of Angie's bookstore. It's almost like a library where people go to see people and gather. It's a safe space. It's got beautiful artwork. It's got delicious coffee, and it's just exciting for that community that's been so long overlooked
Sure.
and redlined, et cetera. So
Thanks, Roselle.
congratulations, Angie, on your new store. And hi, Rhona.
Hello.
I want to ask you about one more local author. Angie it's a book about a local hero, really, Maureen Betch of American
Yes.
Beach, and it's called Saving American Beach.
Yes.
But it's a children's book.
It's a children's book. And, I met the beach lady while I was in elementary school. And I'm so sad that she's not around still. But this book is available. It is so colorful. And it teaches the children just about how amazing of an environmentalist and activist that she was. And again, like she's from here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's an extraordinary woman. No longer with us, but it is a beautiful book. It's actually illustrated by a Caldecott Award
Mhm.
honoree, Yuka Holmes. Um, I want to ask you, in talking about children's books, Erika, you recommended a few on your list that were either for children or young adults. What picks are you recommending this year?
Yeah, so for kids, I'm recommending this holiday season that you check out the How to Catch series. I love to recommend a series for children because it kind of answers the question of what do we read next. How to Catch stars a group of kids called the How to Catch Kids as they go on hijinks trying to capture mythical creatures to prove that they're real. So each book follows them trying to catch an elf, a talking snowman, or reindeer for the Christmassy ones. But there are tons to read throughout the year where they try to catch mermaids and unicorns and all sorts of other critters.
And then your young adult book was actually part of like a Japanese manga series. Is that right?
Yeah, and if you're not familiar with manga, it's illustrated books at a higher reading level, so they do still have great vocabulary for those parents who might be concerned that their kids are just consuming comics. Um, and I want to recommend Witch Hat Atelier, which stars a girl named Coco who wishes that she could do magic, but she lives in a world where you have to be born with it, until one day she finds out that might not be true. Coco goes on an adventure where she lives in an atelier with other students, and it's a really sweet series about facing challenges as a group, friendship, sticking together, and defying the odds.
Rhona, one of the books that you recommended is also a young adult. It's a mystery called Darkly. Why did that land on your list?
Well, I read it recently because the author, Marisha Pessl, wrote this amazing book years ago called Special Topics in Calamity Physics, which is a great title. And she's just this inventive author when she includes pictures of letters and newspaper clippings in the books. And so I thought it would be fun to read a young adult book. And I'd also just read Murakami, which will blow your mind. So I thought it would be a nice break. Um, and it's fantastic because you get to see the world through the perspective of kids. And these are kids who were selected from massive numbers of kids for reasons you don't find out till later to solve a problem of a missing child having to do with a game that some woman invented. And I have to say, it was twisty and I didn't figure out what was going on. And it took me a long time. I had to get all the way to the end and there were surprises the whole way. So I thought it was a great adventure and a wonderful mystery. And she stayed with her inventiveness. And so I loved it.
Well, as you say, you're influencing the reading of the nation. That also was really highly acclaimed in the New York Times. But you mentioned Murakami, and that new book. It's called The City of Uncertain Walls,
Right.
by Haruki Murakami, and,
Yeah.
and he's not the most accessible author.
He's not, but he's Japanese and he is translated. And the first book I read by him was What I Talk About When I Talk About Running, which is so funny because if you look at me, I'm not really a runner, but I loved it because he said he runs 100 miles a week and every day tries to think of a reason not to run. And people say, "Are you writing your next book?" And he says, "No, the whole point is to think about nothing." So I was intrigued by this one. And this is somewhat of a retelling in that he wrote a short story in 1980 that he just didn't like. And so he decided he was getting older and he wanted to go back to it. And now it's a 400 and something page book, which is this book. And it's very trippy. You don't know what's real. A man is in love as a teenager and he tries to find this woman and she lives in this city and these walls keep moving. Does the city exist? Are the people in the book dead? Or are they alive? Are there ghosts? It's just one of those things you have to say, I'm going to go along for the ride. And the language is beautiful. And just enjoy the journey. Don't try and figure it out.
Tricia, I want to ask you about one of the books that was first on your list called A Living Remedy. Tell us a little bit about that book and why that was one that you liked so much.
Well, as a memoirist, I'm always amazed at women or other memoirists who can write more than one memoir about their lives. And Nicole Chung is one of them. Her first book is called All You Can Ever Know, and it's about being an adoptee. She was adopted. She's Asian, and she was adopted by her white parents. And she talks about growing up as an adoptee in a primarily white community and what that was like for her. In her second book, The Living Remedy, it's about losing her parents, her adoptive parents, in a way that is really damaged by the healthcare system in America. So both of her parents died in ways that their lives could have been extended and their lives could have been made a lot more comfortable toward the end if they had had better access to healthcare. And it's an intriguing story, but it's also just a kind of a devastating story. And it's really well written. I think Nicole Chung is just a beautiful, beautiful writer. And I love that she is brave enough to tell not just her story once, but to tell it twice in ways that make people pay attention.
You also recommended a local author, Tia Levings. Her book is called A Well-Trained Wife. Tell us about that. Tell us about her.
Yeah, she grew up a good portion of her life in Jacksonville and was married here. She's another very brave woman, and she married into a Christian patriarchal family. She had 4 kids. She was abused and had a really tough marriage, but was not supported at all by her extended family when she tried to escape. She felt kind of hammered into this relationship and with no way out, until she finally thought, well, it's going to be me leaving, or I'm going to die here. And so she took her kids and she escaped. And the story that she writes is really kind of an outline of how patriarchy works to denigrate women and to kind of keep them under wraps.
Yeah.
And I'm just very proud of her as a fellow writer and as just somebody who I just think has really been an amazing storyteller when it comes to explaining to people how this religious system works.
Angie, while we're on the subject of kind of more serious topics, one of your recommendations was This Nonviolent Stuff Will Get You Killed.
Yes.
How Guns Made the Civil Rights Movement Possible. It's by Charlie Cobb.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about it.
So, yes, actually, this is the author that Roselle was talking about earlier. So this book is
Who spoke at the
yes, who
cafe.
spoke at the cafe, correct. This book is just basically about his life as a civil rights activist, as a field secretary in SNCC back in Mississippi in the
Student
60s.
Nonviolent
Yes, coordinating
Committee.
committee, correct. He talks about Fannie Lou Hamer. He met her and things like that, and just that they were risking their lives trying to get equality. And so it's a really good read. It pushes back against privilege and lets folks know what folks had to go through. And he was a young man, right? Like when he went down to Mississippi, he was born and raised in D.C., and then he wanted to do more. And so doing more, he put his life on the line to fight for equality for those in Mississippi.
While we're talking history, Rhona, a couple of historical fictions landed on your list, including this book, The Wealth of Shadows by Graham Moore, which has been getting a lot of attention as well. Tell us about it. It's really an extraordinary story.
It's really one of my favorite books of the year, and it's historical fiction, but you read the endnotes and 90-something% of it's true. So most of it's true, and it's about a tax attorney in 1939 who goes to the Treasury Department who says, I know we don't want to get into the war, but I think that we can beat the Nazis by bankrupting Germany. And then the government actually formed a secret committee, and John Maynard Keynes was part of it, a Russian spy infiltrated. And all this is true, and they're trying to make the dollar the currency of the world and how they can stay neutral, but bankrupt Germany, which obviously it didn't work. We had to go to war. But it's an amazing story, and the fact that it's true is so compelling.
And the author, Graham Moore, really excavated this person from history. I mean, he said you couldn't find his name, Ansel Lunsford, in any Google search. He just didn't exist.
Right. Nobody ever heard of him. And he's really good at writing historical fiction. But this was a great one because it is somebody that we never heard of. It's not trying to resurrect somebody that we all know and telling a different story. This is a wholly new story.
Yeah. Erika, one of the adult books that was on your list is called Legends and Lattes. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, and I just want to clarify, I was asked for cozy reads. But yeah,
You have a whole other list of serious reads.
I do. They're sitting next to my bed. But Legends and Lattes is a story of Viv the orc, who is part of a kind of Dungeons and Dragons-esque adventuring party. And she's tired of the adventuring life. She decides to hang up her greatsword and open a cafe in a fantasy town. It's a really sweet, soft book. There's a romance subplot for you adults out there, and it follows her finding a found family, building her cafe, the way her community supports her. It's just a really affirming, sweet read, and it's got luscious scenes, delicious pastries, hot beverages, a warm fire, and friends.
And it also, I mean, it doesn't take itself too seriously. The subtitle of this is A Novel of High Fantasy and Low Stakes.
Yes. So when there are struggles, it's small stuff that you can kind of relax into the read and kind of rest this holiday season.
Um, I'm interested to know what is on your bookshelf or on your nightstand right now, Tricia Booker. I mean, what are you going to be picking up next?
I'm going to be picking up all of the books that I asked my children to give me for Christmas, and I'm hoping that they appear.
If they deliver.
Yes, one of the ones that I'm very interested in reading is Martyr. Rhona, remind me of the author.
Oh, I can't remember his name. I'd have to look it up. It's AK something, but yes.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what I'm looking at.
All right.
That's a good one.
Um, I have to say, one of my favorite books of the year was an author we actually had on, and is another local author, writing in this case under the name Michael George. His name is Michael Wiley, and he's a professor at UNF. But he did a book that's told in verse, which sounds weird, and I think a lot of people think, but it is an incredible book. It's called Find Your Own Way Home, and I definitely would recommend that to anybody that is looking for a gift book that is dark. I mean, don't make any mistake; it is not the kind of like cheery Christmas or holiday book that some people might like. Talk, if you would, a little bit, Angie, about what is on your next year list. What are you looking to acquire? What are you hoping to bring into the bookstore in terms of speakers?
Yeah, for sure. So I always love bringing in more local authors. And I also want to try to go after a few celebrity folks. Our first big book signing was with Ricky Smiley. And so that was amazing. And then also we have Danielle, who has, Danielle Lewis, I believe is her name. But she wrote The Day God Saw Me as Black. We were supposed to bring her in December. Things got a little crossed, but I'm looking forward to her coming in. That is a good book especially for Black women, if they're struggling with their spirituality and that type of thing. It's a really good read. And then I also will continue to have our local book readings with our superheroes to get the children to love reading. We actually had Black Panther and Spider-Man reading to the kids, as well as Storm. And then we also had a Princess Tea party where Elsa and Princess Tiana read to the kids as well. So it is a community hub, and we're really trying to promote literacy in an area where the literacy rates are low.
Yeah, Erika, what about the library in terms of literacy events or just reading events?
Yeah, you can always head to jackspubliclibrary.org and click on the events tab. Every branch is going to have something a little different for you, and there are programs for each age group. So we do the young readers who are just learning to hold a book all the way up through adults.
We got a message from Katie on Facebook. Just says, Rhona and Angie, both of your bookstores are my favorites. Love this discussion. Rhona, I just want to ask you the same question. I mean, what's going on in the new year at the BookMark in terms of author events?
Well, we have our first author event will be with Fiona Davis. She does great historical fiction. She takes an iconic building in New York and has something in the past and something in the present. So she's been very popular. We have Corrine Payton, who is a romance author, coming. We have Mark Mustian, who does also great historical fiction, coming. We do an event with Jacksonville Now called Rhona Recommends, where I get up and pontificate about books by and about women. So that's always fun. So there's always something. Again, we have a website too, bookmarkbeach.com, and you can find all those great events, and they just keep coming. It's wonderful to bring that to the community.
Yeah, and don't forget your independent bookstores. Don't forget the library as a resource. We did get an email from somebody who wants some of these titles in a place where they can read them and look up the authors or whether or not they want to get them. And so we'll be posting the complete list of the books that we talked about later this morning on the First Coast Connect website.
Purchase them from us.
Yeah, definitely support your local bookstores. This is not a plug for Amazon by any means. This is a time to put some money back in the pockets of people in the local community. Angie Nixon, Rhona Brinlee, Erika Alfieri, Tricia Booker, thank you all so much for either coming in or joining us by phone.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Happy holidays to everyone.
Coming up, a literal path to literacy and health. Welcome back. Well, texting while driving is off limits, but reading while walking is not only okay, it's actually encouraged. Here to tell us about this interactive literacy project along the Emerald Trail is StoryWalk curator and literacy project manager at the Jacksonville Public Library, Claire Olson. Hey, welcome.
Hi, thank you so much for having me today.
Thank you for being here. We're also joined by Katie Ensign with Baptist Health. Good morning, Katie.
Good morning. It's
Say it. Did I say it wrong?
yeah, my last name is pronounced Ensign.
Ensign.
Thank you.
Filed away. All right. So, Claire, start by telling us just what is StoryWalk?
So, StoryWalk is a wonderful way to increase literacy in your community, and it's literally just taking the pages of a picture book, mounting them on posts, and placing them on a community pathway or walkway in a playground or park so that there's no barrier to access for anyone, and the community is able to go out with their children, family members, and enjoy it and walk and read.
And this is not unique to Jacksonville, true?
This is not unique to Jacksonville. This started out of the Kellogg Hubbard Public Library in Vermont. This was a community health initiative in that area, and the woman who started it, Ann Ferguson, that was her goal, was to get families moving more outside, and she thought, what better way than to have something fun like a book to follow along? And so that's where the whole project kind of got its start, but it blossomed, and she had no idea that it would take off like it did, but it's all around the world now.
And truly, I mean, it's in places like Russia and Pakistan. There are
Absolutely.
projects all over the place.
Absolutely, yes. All over the 50 United States as well.
And this is not even the first project here in Jacksonville.
No, the Jacksonville Public Library has one at A. Philip Randolph Park in historic East Side, and it's a beautiful trail there and wonderful books, and the community is really enjoying it, and the East Side Library is promoting it and sending the kids over there, so it's a great spot as well.
And so Katie, Baptist is the project partner with this. Explain, first of all, why Baptist is involved. I mean, Claire alluded to some health benefits. Is that sort of the driver?
Yeah, absolutely. We made an investment in the Emerald Trail, the La Villa link of the Emerald Trail, because health and well-being for the community, whether or not you ever step inside the walls of Baptist Health, we are locally governed. We are the only local health system that is locally governed. And so all of our board members reside here, live here, have family here, as do our patients and team members. And so health and well-being is really important to us, whether or not you ever come inside our walls. And so we also we know that 80% of what impacts your health happens outside of the hospital. It has to do with moving, learning, those kinds of things, socioeconomics, and, where you live, how you live. So we want to be part of that solution for people and make sure that everybody has access to well-being.
And so this is also a Groundworks Jacksonville project, and they're obviously a big part of this Emerald Trail.
Yes.
And so this sort of runs alongside a stretch of the Emerald Trail. Tell us where it is and how that section was chosen.
Yeah, it is. The La Villa link is right by the convention center, and it's about a 1.3 mile part of the Emerald Trail. It's the first part of the Emerald Trail to be open. And we chose that because one of the reasons that we chose it is because when the Emerald Trail was being developed by Groundwork Jacks, they went to neighborhoods all along the Emerald Trail and said, what do you want out of this trail? This is really about community health and well-being. This is for you. And the community said, what we want is this La Villa link. This will link us and our neighborhoods to downtown and to places that we don't really have easy access to. And we thought that really demonstrated that the community has spoken and we need to listen to them. And so we want to make sure that that link is not only accessible, but that it's activated and there are activities and things to do so that families can take advantage of that.
And Claire, this is not a 1.3 mile book read, though, right? This is just a shorter segment.
No,
It would be a really long book.
Yeah, it would be a really long book. We'd be reading Dickens. No, this is a smaller section and goes just by the butterfly garden on the La Villa link. So it's really strollable, easy access. And of course, because this is the gorgeous, Emerald Trail, it's stroller friendly and wheelchair friendly and accessible by bike and scooter and everything else. So,
And for people who don't know the butterfly garden, this is on Johnson Street between Church
and Duval.
and Duval.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yes. So it's right in that section. There's a nice duck pond right before it.
Yes.
So you've got lots of things to engage the children with and talk about as
Nice
you walk.
trees. It's a pretty little
Beautiful
spot.
trees.
So tell us about choosing the books. How are the books selected? By whom? How long do they stay up?
We're keeping the books up about 3 months now, changing them out every 3 months, and you're looking at the person who chooses them.
Ah,
You kind of have to have somebody who's in charge of that. We are choosing books that we've used in library programs and that we know to be really good books, and just we want to have a variety. I'm really interested in showing kids that there are a lot of different kind of picture books. They're not just about nature or outdoors. They're about all kinds of things, and that reading is fun. And you know, one of the big things that I'm passionate about are the prompts at the bottom of the StoryWalk panels. And those help the caregiver or parent engage with the child about the story. So it says something like, can we count the butterflies on this page? Or can you spot the color red? And those are the kind of things that help engage children and really build those early literacy skills as they're going through picture books.
and so, I mean, illustrations are a big part of any child book, right?
Absolutely.
But I would guess even more so when you're talking about a visual display that you're trying
Yes.
to kind of have draw
Of
people in as
course.
they're walking by.
Right. So we definitely want to use books that have beautiful spreads, that have lovely illustrations. You don't want too many words on a page because it's really about, moving from panel to panel.
And this what we're showing right now on the screen is the book that is currently up. It's called Flower Garden by Eve Bunting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And so, what about that book in particular
I
prompted you to choose it?
I just love the illustrations in this book. Kathryn Hewitt did a beautiful job. The illustrations really pull you in. The faces are super engaging, and it's a beautiful story about a child who lives downtown. She lives in an apartment complex. Her family uses public transportation. She walks city streets, and so it really makes sense to have a story like this on the La Villa Link in our urban area, where children can see their world portrayed in the pages of the book.
It's a great project. I know that the other one is Round as a Tortilla. That's the one that A. Philip Randolph.
Yes,
Yeah.
currently Round as a Tortilla is over at A. Philip Randolph. It's a great little story, lots of shapes to spot in that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's a cool project. Katie Ensign, nice to have you here. Claire Olson, thanks for picking the books and coming on to tell us about it.
Absolutely.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, we'll be back in just a minute. Welcome back. Well, from trade wars to major shifts in the AV and EV markets, the global automotive landscape is driving towards an uncertain future. Here to discuss is our resident gearhead, Dan Scanlon, reporter for WJCT News 89.9. Good morning, Dan.
Morning, Ann.
Well, I suppose we need to start with the news that is just happening right now, even as we speak, about, apparently a merger that is coming to fruition. Tell us a little bit about what's happening.
As we've been hearing this morning on NPR, Honda and Nissan have been in negotiations for about a week to join forces and also bring Mitsubishi into that, making them one of the largest automakers in the country. The merger would possibly be approved by this summer so that the Tokyo Stock Exchange could officially list them. Honda needs Nissan's truck platforms. Nissan announced about a month ago that they were 12 to 14 months away from going bye-bye, and their EV technology is way behind. Some of their cars and trucks and SUVs are also somewhat old in design, so they needed help too, and their president just disappeared and went elsewhere. So this is a major, major force that could possibly see the combined company making 8 million vehicles by the time it comes to fruition, but also seeing a stronger EV presence, electric vehicle presence, among all of them. I don't know if Honda and Nissan Mitsubishi stay by their own names or if this becomes Hissan or Nanda or whatever, but the bottom line is Nissan, as we know it, was about to fail.
Mhm.
And some of our friends here actually have Nissans, and we're wondering how they'd even have their cars fixable after that. So obviously this ensures factory support. I've tested some Nissans lately. They're fine. They're comfortable. But some of them are literally 2019 designs, and that, like in dog ears, that's a really old design. So
Yeah.
I was expecting this. It's been in the chit chat for the past few weeks, but now it's official as of this morning. Let's see where it goes from here.
Yeah, the auto nerds knew about it, but not the rest of us. I want to ask you, I mean, this merger is obviously, huge news for the industry, but I mean, the headline has been tariffs and the impact of tariffs potentially on the automotive industry. They could be harder hit than a lot of other industries. Explain to us, what that scenario looks like.
Well, the threat is a 25% tariff on any automotive product coming in from Mexico or Canada. Canada makes a lot of our truck products. Mexico, a lot of our cars come from there, and a lot of our spare parts, the stuff that you use to repair vehicles, comes from Mexico. So a 25% tariff means your vehicle, which costs on average $49,000 for a new car these days, or new vehicle, could add to the cost of that. And then if you got to get your 2 or 3 or 4-year-old car fixed, then the parts are more expensive. And heaven forbid, if you've got an older vehicle out of warranty and you got to pony up the cost yourself. And that is an issue for a lot of people. And so I don't see how that's going to cut any costs. And the other thing is, you issue tariffs against Canada and Mexico. The newsmakers are saying that they'll do the same against us for stuff we send there. And we send a lot of raw material there for them to then manufacture the parts or the vehicles and send them here.
It's interesting that you say that, if people are out of warranty. I wonder if the fact that those costs would be borne by the automaker, if you have an extended warranty, might persuade some people to actually get that extended warranty with an eye towards future tariffs.
Well, I had an extended warranty on my car I still own now, and it was a lifesaver for me, but I had to fight for it.
Oh, you do have to
You have
fight
to
for
fight.
it.
You have to fight for every single nugget you get. But yes, that would certainly drive that industry, and there's many more of them now than there were then. But the bottom line is, it's going to cost more, and that you're bringing up another nugget here, is that it will cost more for your standard warranty, or maybe the car companies back off on their warranties.
Just about a minute left, and it's a lot to pack in, but catch us up on the EV/AV world.
Well, bottom line is Ford stopped the production of the Lightning truck because of sales. There's a company called Canoo that was making electric trucks. They have now basically stopped making things. I think the market has hit its point for electric vehicles, and at some point we're going to need them, but maybe not now, because drill, baby, drill is what Trump is saying. So gasoline will be more plentiful, and gas vehicles will probably be on the forefront.
Well, Dan Scanlon, we always appreciate your immersion in the world of autos, so you can kind of bathe us in that knowledge. We appreciate you coming by today.
Volunteers in Medicine has been providing health care for the working uninsured for over 20 years. With over 200 dedicated medical volunteers, Volunteers in Medicine operates clinics in West Jacks and South San Marco. We're committed to a healthier community. More at vimjacks.org. Terrell Hogan Law.
I'm Wayne Hogan. When people are hurt through no fault of their own, finding the who, what, when, where, why, and how that led to the accident is critical to proving the truth.
More at terrellhoganlaw.com.
On the next Fresh Air, some great Christmas music. John Batiste will be at the piano to play, sing, and talk about some of his favorite Christmas songs. It's part 2 of the session we recorded with him. And we'll listen back to Amir Questlove Thompson playing recordings from the Christmas playlist he put together for us. Join us.
Today at noon on WJCT News 89.9.
Imagine growing up as the son of the most famous alien in the world.
I would have a knockdown, drag-out argument with my dad, and then I would go to pick up my shirts at the cleaners, and the guy would figure out my last name and wax eloquently about how much he loves Spock, and I'm like, yada, 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 can I just get my shirts?
Adam Nimoy on his father Leonard Nimoy and what it was like growing up as the son of Mr. Spock. That's on the next On Point.
Today at 11, here on WJCT News 89.9.
This year, Renee Elise Goldsberry chose to tell her story. Her role as Angelica Schuyler in Hamilton catapulted her to fame. Now, the stage star is making her comedic debut on the small screen. Goldsberry talks to us about the film that follows her Hamilton journey, from workshop to Broadway, and shows us how she balances work and motherhood. That's next time on 1A.
Today, starting at 10 on WJCT News 89.9.
And we're back. Well, this loss will unfortunately not stay in Vegas. It's going to continue to follow this 3-12 team. Joining us by phone with a recap is News4Jax sportscaster Alessandra Pombrian. Good morning, Alessandra. Thanks for being here.
Good morning. I loved that intro. That is very evident that they're definitely taking this loss with them. Yeah, the Las Vegas won 19-14 over the Jaguars. Now both teams are 3-12 on the season. Las Vegas ended a 10-game losing streak, and because of their loss, the Jaguars now move to number 3 pick in the NFL draft. So new low for the Jaguars. Quite disappointing. I tweeted out after the game. I don't know if this game was more disappointing and embarrassing than the loss to the Bills and to the Lions. I still cannot figure out which one's worse because they're all quite embarrassing.
This is the 9th time I saw your station report. The 9th time this season that the Jags lost by 7 points or less. So these are just so close. And they just can't seem to get it over the finish line, as it were.
Yeah, you're right. So the Jaguars, they had 2 minutes and 44 seconds left on the game, or left in the game to score the game winner. But Mac Jones decided to pass to Dearness Johnson. He couldn't convert the 4th down. The Raiders iced the clock with about 52 seconds left to win. Las Vegas had recovered only 1 fumble all season before Sunday's game. It had 2 recoveries against the Jaguars, and 2 recoveries that could have, if the Jaguars kept hold of the ball, could have turned into points, at least field goals or a possible touchdown, which is just what they needed. Like I said, 19-14. So they needed a touchdown to win. They couldn't go with the field goal. But yeah, quite disappointing. It's really frustrating, which the players and, Coach Peterson said it's frustrating when you're so close, but you can't just get over the hump. But you know what? During the game, they played undisciplined. There was costly mistakes. There was late in the second quarter during one sequence, there were 4 penalty flags thrown on 4 consecutive plays.
Wow. 2
by the Jaguars, 2 by the Titans. And in the NFL game, you're kind of like, oh my goodness, this is, just embarrassing. This is what you would expect from maybe a high school football game, but you should have been more disciplined because they were all pre-snap penalties. So that definitely was costly for both teams, but ended up being more costly for the Jaguars.
So I saw that the Times Union sports writer, Gene Fournette, he said this is the most underachieving season in franchise history. Obviously been good for Brian Thomas Jr., who broke some more rookie records, I guess, during this game.
Yeah, he did. He's the bright spot. Doug Peterson said it yesterday after the game as well, and I think everyone can agree. He definitely is the bright spot on offense, the best offensive player that they have by tenfold. But he broke Justin Blackman's reception record by a rookie during the 3rd and 9 catch that was for like 16 yards in the first quarter. And then in the third quarter, the 62-yard touchdown pass he just absolutely blew up the Raiders with. That put Thomas over 1,000 receiving yards on the season. And in the game, it was Brock Bowers, who's the former Georgia Bulldog tight end. He leads the NFL in rookie receiving yards. Brian Thomas Jr. is number 2 right behind him. I don't know what their total yardage is after the game, but coming in, there was only like less than 50 yards between the two. So that was kind of and Brock Bowers, blew up the Jaguars defense. You saw that in the game too. So it was against the 2 rookie receivers. That was 2 rookie pass, whatever. But in the game, that was kind of the storyline.
So the after game storyline is, once again, frustrated fans. There's this GoFundMe that's trying to fund a billboard that says "Fire Balky."
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me of in 2021 when all the Jaguars fans on Twitter changed their emoji or their profile picture to a clown with a mustache like Shad Khan, once again urging him to fire Balky. The story hasn't changed.
Yeah, so we did a story. One of our members of our web team at News4Jax did a web article about it, so you can go to news4jax.com to read it. He contacted the person who set up the GoFundMe, and the guy says he either wants to buy a billboard, like the billboard that you have, or buy one of the planes that fly, like the sayings on the back of it. I don't know what those are called. But the Giants did that actually about maybe a month ago now, or maybe it was a couple weeks ago. I don't even know what time it is, but I think it was like in November. They did the same exact thing that said basically fire everyone. So I do wonder this Sunday for their last home game if they're going to be flying a sign like that. They host the Titans. The Titans are 3-2, and the Jaguars, they beat the Titans 10-6 just 2 weeks ago. So hopefully they can get a win, but who knows?
Well, Alessandra, we are hoping next time you come around, you can give us the good news instead of more of the bad. But we really appreciate you joining us by phone. And we know you're a super busy person. So thanks so much for being here.
Oh, thank you. I hope I'm not the curse that makes them lose because since I cover them, I hope not. But Merry Christmas, everyone, and Happy Holidays. And then hopefully next Monday we get to talk about a win.
All right. Thanks so much, Alessandra.
Bye.
And that's our program. Thank you for listening. If you have any comments or feedback, you can send either to First Coast Connect at WJCT.org. And if you missed anything today, you can catch our rebroadcast at 8 o'clock.
Support for First Coast Connect is provided in part by Baptist Health.
Baptist Health is a proud supporter of First Coast Connect. Baptist Health, committed to building a healthier community for all of us. More info at 202-4YOU or BaptistJax.com. Mocha Jacksonville presents Spectral Subjects, an interactive art installation that transforms Mocha Jax's atrium into a thermal observatory that changes with every visitor interaction. Information at mochajacksonville.unf.edu. WinGuard, a Jacksonville-based marketing and communications agency, provides public relations support for client partners across multiple industries. A strong PR strategy can help local companies, nonprofit organizations, and executives tell their story effectively. More at wearewingard.com.